The three brothers stood at the edge of a deep, mysterious forest, the shadows of towering trees stretching across the ground. Their father, a man of great wisdom and experience, stood before them with a serious look in his eyes. "It's time for your final test," he said. "You each hold a belief, one in faith, one in money, and one in relationships. Go into the world and prove which of your beliefs is the strongest. But remember, the path ahead is not easy. You will face challenges that will test your every conviction. Who will return with the answer? Who will find that their belief was the right one?" The brothers exchanged glances, their hearts heavy with the weight of the challenge. The air was thick with suspense. Who would succeed, and who would fail? The forest loomed ahead, dark and foreboding, as if it held the answers to their fates. What would happen if they failed? Would they return broken, having learned that their belief was wrong? Or would they each find something greater than they ever imagined? The silence was deafening, and with one final look at their father, each brother stepped into the unknown, ready to face the world and prove which belief truly held the power to change their lives. The first brother, with nothing but his belief in faith, ventured deeper into the unknown. He came upon a small, desolate town, its buildings crumbling and its streets empty. A heavy sense of danger hung in the air, the town seeming abandoned by hope. But the brother walked with confidence, trusting that his faith would guide him. He believed that as long as he followed his heart and kept faith in something greater, everything would work out. The people in the town eyed him suspiciously, their faces drawn with hardship. Still, he offered his help, believing that his trust in faith would spark a change. But as night fell, the true danger revealed itself. A storm began to rage, winds howling and rain pouring down, turning the already eerie town into a nightmare. The brother found shelter in a rundown shack, praying for guidance. Doubts started to creep into his mind. Was his faith enough to protect him? Was it possible that in a world filled with danger and skepticism, his unwavering belief was simply naive? The question lingered. Would his faith be the light that guided him through, or was he about to learn the harsh lesson that belief alone can't always save you? The second brother, confident in the power of money, began his journey with a sack full of gold. To him, wealth was the key to success. He believed that money could buy safety, food, allies, anything he needed to win the challenge. Everywhere he went, doors seemed to open. He traded his gold for supplies, hired people to help him, and lived with the comfort of knowing that his wealth was his shield. But as he camped under the stars one night, a sudden rustling in the bushes broke his peace. Before he could react, a thief emerged from the shadows, swiftly stealing his sack of gold and vanishing into the darkness. The second brother's heart raced as he searched the area, but the thief was long gone. His wealth, his security, and his hopes of winning the challenge were gone in an instant. Now, standing empty-handed and alone, the brother was forced to face a harsh reality. Money, which he believed could solve every problem, had failed him when he needed it most. Was money truly the answer to life's challenges, or had he been wrong all along? With nothing left to his name, the second brother wondered if he had been chasing the wrong dream. Would he be able to survive without wealth, or had his belief in money led him down a dangerous path? The third brother, who believed in the power of relationships, set off on his journey with a smile and an open heart. He knew that the key to success lay in the people he met and the connections he formed. Everywhere he went, he struck up conversations, offering help and making friends. He quickly realized that the more people he knew, the easier his journey became. With each new ally, he felt more confident, sure that the strength of these relationships would guide him through any hardship. But as time passed, the third brother began to sense something was off. One by one, he encountered people who seemed to only want something from him, money, favors, or even information. The promises of friendship began to feel empty, and he started to question the sincerity of those around him. Was he surrounded by true allies, or was he being used? One evening, as he shared a meal with a trusted companion, he overheard a conversation that shattered his trust. "Once we get what we need from him, we'll leave him behind," whispered the friend, unaware that the third brother had heard every word. Shocked, the third brother realized that not everyone had his best interests at heart. Now, he had to navigate the tangled web of friendships and alliances, unsure of who he could truly rely on. Would he find someone who genuinely cared for him, or had his belief in relationships led him into a trap of betrayal and deceit? The question haunted him. Who would turn out to be his true ally, and who was just using him? The first brother, having trusted in his faith, now found himself caught in a deadly storm. The winds howled like wild beasts, and the rain came down in torrents, turning the ground beneath him into a slippery, treacherous path. He had no money to buy shelter, no relationships to call upon for help. It was just him, alone in the fierce storm, with only his belief to guide him. As he struggled against the wind, he whispered to himself, "If I keep my faith, I will be safe. Something greater will protect me." But the storm showed no mercy. Lightning flashed across the sky, and thunder rumbled like a warning. He tried to find shelter, but every path he took seemed to lead him deeper into the chaos of the storm. With every step, doubts began to creep into his mind. Was he being foolish, relying on faith alone in such a dangerous world? Could belief really be enough to keep him alive when the storm seemed ready to swallow him whole? As he huddled under a tree, desperately praying for safety, the wind grew fiercer. The question echoed louder. Was his faith enough to survive, or would it leave him lost and vulnerable in the face of nature's wrath? The storm raged on, and only time would tell if his belief could carry him through or if the world would prove him wrong. The second brother, still reeling from the loss of his gold, found himself walking through a desolate valley when a group of robbers suddenly appeared, surrounding him with menacing looks. "Hand over all your wealth," the leader demanded, his voice cold and unforgiving. The brother, having believed so strongly in the power of money, had no choice but to hand over every last coin. Without his gold, he was left empty-handed and vulnerable, a harsh realization settling in that money hadn't saved him after all. But then something unexpected happened. The leader of the robbers, after taking the gold, looked at the brother with a mixture of pity and respect. "You're the first man who's offered everything willingly," he said, nodding to his crew. To the brother's surprise, the robbers returned his gold and offered him food and shelter for the night. As he sat by the fire, the second brother wondered, was this a sign that money wasn't everything? Did his willingness to give everything away change the robbers' hearts? Or was he still winning because of his wealth? Could it be that the true lesson lay in the act of giving rather than having? Meanwhile, the third brother, having built many connections, found himself in a deep conversation with one of his trusted allies. Or so he thought. As they talked, the friend's eyes shifted, and the third brother suddenly felt a sense of unease. Before he could react, the friend turned away, selling information about the brother to a rival group in exchange for personal gain. The betrayal hit hard. The third brother, who had believed in the strength of his relationships, now felt completely alone. Suspense gripped him as he wondered, how could he recover from this broken trust? Could he rebuild his faith in others after such a devastating betrayal? Was he forever doomed to walk a lonely path, unable to trust anyone again? With the weight of the betrayal heavy on his heart, he had to ask himself, could relationships ever be as strong as he once believed? Or had he been blind to the truth that some people would always use him for their own gain? Rebuilding trust seemed impossible, but the third brother knew one thing for sure. He had to find a way to move forward, or else he would lose everything he had worked for. Faith's brother wandered through a small village when he stumbled upon a heartbreaking sight, a child lying in the dirt, pale and feverish, with no one around to help. The child's parents had long since left, and the villagers were too busy with their own struggles to care. The brother searched his pockets, but he had no money for medicine or care. His only possession was his unwavering faith. Determined, he knelt beside the child and whispered a prayer, trusting that something greater would intervene. He knew that faith had the power to bring help, even in the most hopeless of situations. But as hours passed, no one arrived. Doubts crept in. Was his faith enough to bring someone to the child's aid? Could faith heal wounds when all the material world seemed to have failed? The brother held the child in his arms, feeling helpless and uncertain. Then, just as he was about to give up, a traveler appeared, offering help and medicine. It was a small miracle, but a miracle nonetheless. The question lingered. Did his faith really bring the help, or was it just pure chance? Could belief truly change the course of events in a world where actions seemed to matter more than faith? The second brother, after losing everything to the robbers, was determined to rebuild his fortune. He believed that if he invested wisely, he could recover all that he had lost and more. So he traveled to the bustling city, looking for opportunities to make his money grow. But every investment he made seemed to fail. One business venture after another collapsed, and soon he found himself penniless once again. With nothing left but his belief in money, he tried to keep his spirits up, certain that he just needed the right opportunity. But every door slammed shut, every chance turned to dust. In a final, desperate bid, he invested his last coins into a high-risk deal, only to see it disappear into thin air. Now homeless and broke, the second brother faced a harsh truth. Money had failed him. But in his darkest hour, a kind stranger offered him a meal and a place to stay. The second brother, who had once believed money was the answer to everything, now found himself relying on others' kindness for survival. He realized that money couldn't buy everything. Sometimes it was the human connection that mattered most. Had his belief in money failed him, or was there still hope to be found in people? And if money was no longer the answer, where did he go from here? The third brother, still recovering from the sting of betrayal, came across a stranger who seemed to be in trouble. The man appeared weak, tired, and in need of help. Without hesitation, the third brother offered his assistance, believing in the power of relationships to guide him through any challenge. Little did he know, this stranger was no ordinary person. As the days passed, the third brother learned that the man he had helped was, in fact, a powerful ruler from a distant land. Grateful for the kindness shown to him, the ruler rewarded the third brother with riches and land. But soon, the true weight of the reward began to surface. The ruler demanded loyalty and service in return, asking the third brother to join his court and follow his every command. Suspense gripped him. Was this relationship truly the key to success, or would it come with too many strings attached? Would the burden of power and responsibility overshadow the rewards of friendship? The third brother began to wonder if relationships, even the strongest ones, could lead to happiness, or if they only brought more burdens to bear. The day came when the three brothers were brought together for the final test. They stood in the wilderness, surrounded by nothing but the harsh elements. No money, no friends, no shelter, only their beliefs would guide them now. With hunger and danger looming, the brothers were forced to rely on what they believed would get them through. Suspense filled the air. Which belief would prove to be the strongest? Would the brother who trusted in money find a way to buy his survival? Would relationships save the third brother, or would betrayal haunt him once again? And for the first brother, whose faith had already been tested so many times, would belief in something greater be enough to see him through the hardest trial of all? The challenge had begun, and only one brother would emerge victorious. The question remained: would faith truly triumph over money and relationships, or would the others prove stronger? As the days passed, hunger gnawed at the brothers, and the dangers of the wilderness began to close in. The brother who believed in faith held on to his belief, refusing to give up, even when the others seemed ready to abandon hope. "Something will come," he told himself. "I believe that help is on the way." But the others were growing weaker, their beliefs faltering under the weight of their desperation. Then, just when it seemed that all was lost, a rescue party appeared, guided by a higher force that the first brother had always trusted. The group, who had been searching for them, arrived at the exact moment when hope seemed impossible. The brothers were saved, and the first brother knew without a doubt that his faith had brought the help they needed. The plot twist was clear. Faith, even in the darkest moments, had proven to be the strongest force of all. The suspense lingered. Was faith truly the strongest of them all? Could it really move mountains and change the course of destiny, even when everything else had failed? The three brothers returned home, each forever changed by the trials they had faced. The brother who believed in faith was the only one to succeed in the end, having remained steadfast when all else seemed to fall apart. The second brother, who had believed in money, learned that wealth could not solve every problem, and the third brother, who had placed his trust in relationships, realized that not all connections are as genuine as they seem. Suspense still lingered. What would happen next? What had the brothers truly learned from this journey? Had the brother who believed in faith really been right all along, or had he simply been lucky? As they stood together, they knew one thing for certain. The challenge had changed them. And while the world would always present new trials, they now understood that sometimes the strongest belief isn't about what you can touch or see, but what you trust deep within your heart.